I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Is entirely. Yes. Adam's like.
Well, it's Heather's It's Heather and all men except me.
Right.
So I sit in the room with all these.
All of Marcus's direct reports are being on.
Do you now? Oh my goodness, we should do some sort of study on that really. And work out what's what.
How was Marcus? Yeah. Did you was it on Paris there at the same time? It was a big.
It was
gathering, was it?
It was the compliance officer's development course.
Yes, so she was. Amanda was on that. Amanda was involved with them. Same time.
Was she speaking or was she?
I think she was participating.
Oh
She
God,
sent
I'll
me
look
an email
at that.
before saying she needed to know. Names of some compliance people was part of the
I should look up her feedback. I should look up her feedback in a second and see whether she was nice about me. Because I'm carrying a mental hatchet for a couple of people. Brilliantly eccentric as well. Well, I'm not feeding it, that was about my presentation.
Followed by the pound or hash sign.
Brendan,
we're brilliant now.
I'm not expecting anyone to join us on the phone. Gayan said he's on an all-day off-site, so we're not expecting
Was he
him.
doing
Zane's
the
on
blueprints?
offsite as well in US.
Right, Zane doesn't join us anyway, does he, in this one?
Simon
What
is-
about Lee and Adam?
Lee's coming now.
Lee's coming.
Adam's not coming.
Adam's not coming then. Okay, all right. So we're still going to have a vast majority of women to men today. How good is that?
Yeah.
Not that Brian and Graham should feel at all bad about that, but never mind.
Don't even notice.
Didn't even cross my mind.
Did it not?
Well, you're just one
Yeah,
of the girls,
racist
Graham, you
girls.
know
Yeah.
that.
I honestly have just been in quite a few meetings
I
lately
sit
where it's all
closest to
men.
the door.
Yes.
Positive discrimination thing.
Oh, thank goodness, another girl to the session. Oh, sorry, you missed all of that.
You did. Poorly.
We're outnumbered, Lee. before you use them at all.
We
No
outnumbered you
comment.
today, females to male, which is always a pleasant experience because it's not
There'll be
always the case.
no rubbish and fiddling about now.
No. Right, okay, so I don't propose to spend much time going through the actions because
Good.
most of them are under control and I'll reach out to you when they are. And a number of them are on me and I haven't done them yet, so I'm having some conversations with Lillian, but we're not quite getting to the bottom of everything yet, so I'll update you as soon as I've got something to update you on. What we did want to do is spend some time today just going through in terms of progress updates per work stream, because as you all know from the various correspondence where Lillian wants plans by the end of the week, all I've promised her is a revised high-level view piece, so I want to make sure that we're comfortable with that. And we will have a detailed plan, but again we're telling her that that will be about the next 30 to 60 days detail with confirmed dates in there. Anything else longer than that we are working on because there are a number of dependencies around user requirements, around software delivery and all of that. So that's what I'm proposing to go to her with tomorrow, and I'm only saying tomorrow because that's the end of my week and then I'm buggering off to Berlin, so if she wants to chase me down, I won't be
You
here.
better build that wall back up.
Yeah, I will.
We'll be behind you. We're not way behind you, Karen, but we will
That
be
was
behind you.
Oh, no, it's fine, it's fine. No, so I've already had that conversation with her, and yes, we'll just see when she gets what we're giving her. And to be fair, to put it into context, she had gone and had her one-to-one with Bob, and I know Bob asked for that for the rest of the SEC programme. And Bob got that for AML and sanctions because they've been working on it for a number of months now and sort of have got it to a point. Still, they've only done the next probably 3 months look ahead in any detail. So that's what Bob's expecting, but we can't give him that yet because of where we are with everything. So and Heather's on board with that as well, so I think we're all fine. What we do need to do is just make sure that we're giving her an updated version of this because we have got some really good stories to tell in terms of the stuff that's going on now and the planning that we're doing and the communication and all of that. Give her the detailed plan that will show her that we're actually going down to that next level of detail, and then we can take it from there. So I wanted to spend a bit of time, as I said, on progress updates because as we talk through your progress updates, Lauren and Brian are also going to be frantically matching that back to what we've got on the high level plan and just make sure everything matches up and that we're representing everything correctly on here. Okay? So it's probably worth starting, and I don't want to leave you out on purpose, but if we start with the biggies.
Oh yeah,
And
because
then-
mine's a cottage industry.
Okay, alright, so we'll hear about that
I'm
a bit
making
later.
jam in
did
the
say that
kitchen.
earlier, yeah.
They're making pies by the million. I'm making jam in the kitchen.
And I'm not in the
It's fine.
cottage industry, so
And it's all important stuff, and I think if we start with the big stuff first, it's got multiple lines on here, we'll probably be able to crack through those. So Sarah, perhaps we start with
Yeah,
yours.
what have you done all day, Sarah?
So if you can give us a view, because obviously you're in the thick of things, and now most of the time we will be aligned and know what's going on in your space, but I just want to make sure that, so just tell us everything that you've got going on, and then we'll make sure that it's fitting into our plans and that we haven't missed anything.
I'm looking at Brian because
He doesn't know.
no, because we're speaking all the time. There's a lot going on. So what we're doing is launching a pilot in MENA to pilot the new enhanced due diligence checklist. Thank you. We are frantically working to finalise the checklist package. There'll be a checklist package and a pilot package. I think the pilot package, I'm going to look at both of those tonight. Just had a call hot off the press with the lawyer, Joe Azam, who's fortunately, we've just got a couple of minor tweaks, but we're there. Adam is going to shorten and put in bullet points the guidance for carrying out online searches, because it's got too many words in it at the minute, and I think it's drafted for somebody that is really interested in it. So by the end of tonight, and I'll do it when I get home tonight, is just take a fresh look at it all and draw it together. So we will have that package. We will. Then we have another call scheduled with Simon tomorrow to go through the detailed planning. There's a lot of work to get that planning right in MENA, but we are having regular calls, as Brian knows. We've got some introductory calls with the business scheduled for Thursday, Monday and Wednesday next week. I am awaiting the list of stakeholders that Simon is going to send us, but he's going to send out an introductory email to the points of contact he's got, which will cross all of our business areas and functions, just to say there'll be an initial call to talk about this work. But as soon as I've got that, I'll make sure I send it to you, Katrina, and to you, Graham, as well, because there will be, I'm sure, I don't know, there will be CMB and GEM on there as well. I don't think Simon sent out that email yet, has he?
No, I
He's going to do it tonight.
Right.
So whether we actually have anyone dialed in on Thursday is another matter, but
Yeah.
we'll keep it in the diary.
Okay, and just so that everyone else is aware in the room, what we're trying to do with this pilot is a proper pilot plan and proper preparation, so the comms pack that Sarah's spoken to, and what we'd look to do is all of the pilots that we're doing set up a similar thing so that we have
So we're
a
waiting
plan.
for that one, really.
We
aren't we?
engage the stakeholders. Well, you know, and this is almost a pilot of a pilot. Let's make sure that,
Well,
you know,
it's-
I can't do my
pilot.
part until you've done your pilot.
It's a
No,
critical part, though.
Yeah,
It's
it
hard.
is. We're piloting a
not
pilot,
waiting
and it's
for
all
it.
good. So,
And,
yes.
and we're putting into the process steps to make sure we can check if it's working on.
Yes.
That's right, that's what I
Yeah.
thought, really, to keep flack off me.
Yes, absolutely. Good. Okay.
The problem is, well, not the problem, Simon.
One dream, Sarah.
One team, one joy. I like it.
One team, one nightmare. Yeah.
We are also piloting in Brazil. Brazil will be, there are very few sentences in the bank that start with Brazil will be a lot more straightforward, but it really will, because Laura will be leading it. So I will, before the end of the week, get an initial call scheduled with Laura and all of us, so that we can tell her what the package will look like. But we'll have to do a lot less hand-holding, and I will feel a lot more confident that we will have all those channels of communication between local compliance and the business, because Laura knows everybody,
Okay.
and
Good.
she's already been, she's already giving this advice on a daily basis, so it's not the first time she's had to do this big foray into telling business what they need to do for associated persons. So I've checked with Lillian, and she's happy for the pilot initial notifications to be sent out without her seeing them in advance and approving them. I should have documented that, but that's what she told me yesterday.
That's
You
not what
sent
she
it in
told
an email
Graham,
to
is
me,
it,
so
Graham?
it's, yes, you documented it to me, yes.
Adam and well, Lee is kindly travelling out to Dubai next week, so we'll be on the ground and be able to tell us if things don't seem to be working as we think they are. Adam and myself are travelling out between the 14th and the 17th, so the week just before Easter. So hopefully we can nip any other issues in the bud then as well. But I think we'll be having to
How many associated persons have they got then? I thought there was only 100.
Oh, I think there's about 100 and something.
120, I think.
It shouldn't, honestly, it shouldn't be
It doesn't take
complicated.
very long.
In the entirety of MENA.
Yes.
Right.
I think
So
once
it's
we get
that's probably
once we get there,
That's it, yeah.
I think we will find
That is zero.
we could well find a different reality. But at the minute there are 100 or 100 or thereabouts, split across 16 different areas of the business. I say business / functions. But what we need to do is have that initial call with the 16 business contacts, say please nominate a representative who will do this work, and then we need to train those 16 representatives and we've agreed a sort of process whereby we would want them to report to us on a weekly basis what they're doing, and we're going to assign them a point person, probably from the central team here, so that we can iron out any issues that they've got.
Okay.
And we would want to have some kind of weekly tracker.
Yeah.
On that subject, actually, Adam just raised to me, should we have a pilot SharePoint so that everyone, including the business, pilot SharePoint separate to the ABC SharePoint, or should we just have a pilot section in the ABC SharePoint?
Keep it part of the same SharePoint, I'll set something up.
Okay, brilliant. So those are the next two phases of the first tactical solution on the AP project. I will, by the end of this week, have we've done a summary slide deck of the AP project. I wanted to hold it back until we'd finalised the plan, just in case there were any bits to rejig. But I want to get that finalised by the end of the week, just so we can send it out to our regional colleagues and to all of you guys as well, so that there's something to refer to. So we're working on that. We've had an initial meeting with the third-party framework, third-party risk management programme, I think is what it's called now, which is the joint procurement and risk-sponsored programme that we've now got 2 programme directors, one from risk, one from procurement, and we are going to work out how we're going to support probably 6 of their work streams, like the vast majority of them. We're waiting for them to come back to us.
We are,
Yeah.
yes. I think they're just kicking off, so they're a bit behind the curve than we are. And yeah, I think almost we're going to be the guinea pigs, if you like, because they know some other areas are established, and it'll be harder for them to try and get people moving or thinking about change, whereas we're starting from scratch and have nothing, so actually it looks as though we might be leading the way in terms of what we want and how they're going to run their programme, which will be good.
So that's hopefully the strategic solution, but it's not even commenced yet, so we have to guide them through it. We need to work out what our IT requirements are for our second tactical solution, and probably limit them to build something that's sufficient to roll out, but that isn't contrary to a programme that hasn't yet kicked off. So we need to work out how we engage with what we need to do next on IT, because at the minute I'm just a bit focused on this pilot and we need to plan for the next phase.
I've already had some initial conversations on that, both with the design authority people and with, I've got an IT PM assigned to us already, and I'm meeting with her after this, just to give her a heads up, this is what we want to do. You know, there is a long-term solution, we will need something in the interim, even if it's just a browser with a little access database behind it. We will need something, so just to give her a heads up. And she's also going to outline what the steps we need to go through, who we need to engage.
Okay, brilliant.
What level of documentation we need and so on.
And that will be similar with Graham and Lee's piece, so, you know, that relationship with, what's her name, I forgot, Mandy.
Mandy Walker's the
We'll cover both off and cover similar stages really, so. Okay, alright, so in terms of your high level plan then, Sarah, because one thing we wanted to ask everyone is we've got 2 references to policy in here. We've got the stage 1 review and amend, which was, if we understand it correctly, was just sort of the typos and just making sure that generally things made sense and whatever in the current policy, stage 1. Then we believe it's moving to a stage 2, which is more around the amendment piece. Now your policy part in this high level plan, that will now be a stage 2 piece, won't it? Because you've done your stage 1.
So we're having, what we need to do is, because we've got our 2 tactical solutions, so I would say that we need a second policy change at the end of the pilot, but then
At the end of the pilot.
if we think that the checklist should be rolled out globally, that counts as a policy change because it's an appendix to the policy, or it's a policy update.
Okay.
The significant policy change won't come until we've done our second pilot.
So can we agree on terminology in terms of, because I think you refer to stage 2 policy changes as well in some of the notes I see. Can we confirm?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're just fitting into Gail's terminology, but as far as we're concerned, a fundamental rewrite of a policy which exists, which includes taking ownership away from one function to another function.
Okay.
So call it what you want, that's what it is.
So if we all agree, stage 2 is either a completely new policy that doesn't exist today, or a fundamental change or moving ownership or something, will be a stage 2 policy change.
That's the way Gail's been
Fine.
characterising it,
Okay,
yeah.
alright. Yeah, because it's just some of these we've only got policy there rather than stage 1 or stage 2.
So
I
what
just
it will
want to
be
make
is a
that
further
clearer.
stage 1 policy change.
1A.
Because it's not really, it's just a checklist.
But is it there?
One and a half.
Is it in there already though?
There is a checklist,
Right,
we'll take
So
it out,
it's
put it
just-
in.
right, amending.
So the stage 2 policy change
Is a
will
new
not
policy.
happen until the second
After the
pilot, which, so that won't be till 2015.
Okay, you did.
But we're almost there,
So
I
we've
think.
got
It's
stage
nearly
2 up here
Christmas.
then.
We're looking at Christmas.
On the
still
project
Christmas
plan, I
in
know
place.
you've kindly sent it and I haven't yet come back to you, which you asked by the end of the day, but you will get, I will have a look at it.
So that's fine. And I think, you know, and we're trying to help as much as possible
Yeah.
here. So if we can capture via
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah, okay.
and then Lauren and Brian are getting very good at putting things in the right place. So
Brilliant.
that's good.
So the stage 2, what I would call stage 2, a big significant policy change will be no longer look at associated persons like this and go through the flow chart and do the checklist. It's a let's do it all through a risk scorecard model. That's stage 2. That can't happen until the
It's all
pilot
bit
is.
freestyle.
And we're not
So-
doing the pilot until quarter 4 2014, so it will be quarter 1 2015.
Okay, so I think under the strategic solution then the policy change bit needs to go out to a stage 2 in 2015, and I think we've got the policy part under tactical A moving out to the end of the pilot.
Lily knows
Yeah.
that for piloting for 2014.
Okay, alright, fine.
Okay. Question.
Okay,
So
so
we got the first pilot.
yes,
Can I ask
please
a
do.
question? Whatever happened to the consultants that were going to do the
Right.
universe?
So
Because we had a discussion around that last week, didn't we, I think, in terms of consultants.
I wasn't here.
For
I was in Malta.
EWRA specifically right now.
Just in generally, I remember you said they're not going to be doing legwork, they're going to be doing subject matter expertise. And my
On EWRA,
just
yes.
EWRA,
At the moment, yes.
right? Okay.
So what Lillian, okay, in terms of EWRA, it's been a bit of a bit of a chore. EWRA, we've gone to consultants, we've chosen the appropriate consultant.
Is that
it's-
we or I? Or she?
Lillian did most of the
The
scoring,
firm.
but we agreed with her scoring.
Is that KPMG in the end?
Yes, but that mustn't go out of these walls on pain of death right now,
That's-
because
I think who it is. Charlie
Charlie,
Patrick.
yes, Charlie Patrick will be the lead. Now, basically, that's
Well,
still
there we
not
go there.
absolutely 100%
Is
because
that bribery and corruption?
because we needed Mark Moses and Ray O'Brien sign off, and there's been a bit of a hoo-ha about consultants. However, Lee Yee and Heather were seeing Ray yesterday. Mark Moses has provided his sign off. It's going to CAB tonight, probably 4:30ish. Hopefully we'll get sign off, and if we get sign off, then consultants should be in place probably middle of next week. We were targeting 1st of April-ish, once all the legal paperwork's been done and everything else. So that's the plan for
Did they go
EWRA.
through a transparent and robust selection?
Oh, absolutely. I ran it, yes.
Oh,
They all
that's
had to
brilliant.
come
It was
in.
robust.
It was
There were
robust.
lots of meetings.
They had to give, they had to do presentations with costings. We challenged their costings. They had to come back with revised estimates. We had a proper procurement score sheet. Lots of money.
When we
If they wanted to pay me,
Spoke to
come and do it,
Charlie.
I come and do it, but I haven't got the knowledge.
when we started this,
It's not hard. Brian knows it now, I've taught him.
Ah, well there we go. We'll get Brian in then.
when we started this, the whole program, putting this into a program, there was talk about consultants. There was talk about consultants to assist with certain activities related to the Genie project as well as I think the Associated Persons project.
That was
Yes.
a separate scope of work document.
And- and-
Yes,
Yeah, so I think that's what we discussed
So,
last week, wasn't
we
it?
did. So at that point, that was put on hold while we waited
Yeah.
to see if we could get this first one through, because there is a challenge around
Yeah.
consultancy spend in 2014.
So that is potentially on the horizon. That hasn't been
Yeah.
stopped. Okay.
So basically, following the scoring and the decision-making process last week and getting this into CAB today for approval, Lillian has now done a separate note both to myself, to procurement, and to Nancy Dickinson's budget people to say, this is what I need next.
And,
So we now need to start the process on that.
and so when we discussed last week, because you mentioned there was more move towards getting them in for subject matter expertise rather than just
Yes, so-
actually doing useful things.
No, absolutely. So what we've had to
Subject
do,
matter expertise, and that's what we're meant to be, subject matter.
Yeah, so that was what I mentioned last week. I was like,
But
because we're all
it's
new to the function, in
supporting
theory,
the
we would
effort.
just
Excuse
fulfil that
me.
function.
no, and I
Or a
agree.
role.
I agree. However, so the way they're positioning it now, consultancy spend will not be signed off, as I understand it, if it's for things that we could do ourselves with the people that we have in place. So what we're having to do when we write the business case for the consultancy spend is anything like managing a pilot or managing a rollout process, we are supposed to take that. So that would be Brian, myself, Lauren and other members of the programme team. So rolling out an EWRA pilot, we need to manage that. What we are okay to get the consultants in for is to, and again, writing the questionnaires should be sitting with the bank because you are all the SMEs. The consultants should be coming in with their expertise and their experience in other organisations to review those questionnaires and see if we've missed anything or there's anything in their experience that if it's asked a different way gets a better result or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing, and then what they're also going to be doing, and this is what a lot of the presentations were about, was their on-the-ground teams will be working with the ABC on-the-ground teams that are completing the questionnaires to help them understand and help them get out the right information from the teams on the ground as well.
Yeah, so just speaking from a very specific viewpoint on the Gifts Entertainment, what we need them for is to go out and do a full data gathering exercise in terms of what systems are out there, what spreadsheets are out there, exactly what specifications do they have. What we don't need is for them to come in and tell us what other firms do around Gifts Entertainment
know
solutions, because we know
But I
that.
think that's
Yeah.
the second, like Lillian's second.
That's the
Yeah,
second,
yeah, so I just want to make sure we're
And-
clear, because
yeah.
there was some confusion, I think.
And no, and I think what we do is before I go out to anyone, we will rewrite that piece to make sure that's very clear as to what's that, because that's the only way we're getting it through anyway. What's our responsibility and what we've contributed to this as the organisation and
Yeah.
the team, and then what we're asking the consultants to do and why we need to pay that additional money to get them in. So, yeah, so that's sort of a bit of an update on EWRA, but we'll talk about that a bit more in a minute anyway.
So there was just two more things I wanted to mention.
Yes,
I think,
please do.
so because that reminds me, I will have a look at the plan tonight. At the minute, obviously, the plan divides into the two tactical solutions, one strategic.
Yes, it does.
The Lillian, when I spoke to her last week, was keen that we plan out the finding out the current population of APs, which would be, if we're going to do that, that's the next consultant bit, contingency bit.
Oh, okay.
I query how we plan that. We've got, it's entirely separate from the 2 tactical solutions and the strategic. So I was going to just drop it on an email if we can't plan it out because we haven't even been for resources, but we might want to just do that as a separate line.
So potentially we want to put a sort of line that we've got for Katrina in terms of data gathering or something,
Yeah,
just as
yeah,
a bit of a high level.
Yeah, and I want to keep
title
it separate
for
because if we link it to any of the other solutions that we're working on, if it doesn't go ahead, which it might not, it would sort of drag our ability to say we've completed X, Y and Z.
Okay, so a separate line, data gathering,
Yeah.
with a sort of a high level aspirational date in there,
Yeah.
but not committed to anything else. Right.
And the other bit of work that I realised that we ought to do is just a sort of separate piece on quick wins that we did speak to procurement about in high level terms when we met them last week. But Angela and I had a meeting with with procurement last night, where what I'm looking to do is not no significant changes to the policy other than the ones that we know about, but seeing if we can harness any of procurement's existing processes to make sure that people are directed to remember to think about APs. So there are things that we can do, definitely, following a conversation we had last night, and procurement are quite open to sort of adding extra questions to their standard checklists, etc.
Okay.
So I wonder whether,
So we probably need to
if
add
we
two,
can bear it, whether we can
two
add an
lines.
extra line for sort of quick wins.
Quick wins, so one data gathering, one.
But
quick
again,
wins. Okay.
we can't plan out timings on that yet. I mean, they clearly will be quick wins. 'Cause it's the name of the game.
Your empire is getting bigger and bigger, my goodness.
But that's another. I mean, it's a little thing that we should
Yeah,
be doing.
Yeah, no,
and
that's
we can
fine.
do
We
that
should
quite
show it on
easily.
there because that would be really good in
Yeah.
terms of progress reporting as well when we've been able to give a few of those off. So, yes, okay, all right,
That's it.
thank you. So we've got some changes to make to yours, but I think in general we had captured everything we needed apart from those new bits. So that's good. All right, thank you. So G&E, let's talk about G&E.
Let's talk about gifts.
So we have your policy update piece there, kicking off this month, and then your trial.
Yeah, so
rather than pilot.
Gail sent out a second draft of the policy, which I've gone through in detail and spent many hours on.
I hope you stop the charitable bit.
In what sense?
But that is one of the.
I agree.
I've
Yeah.
deleted,
Totally.
Yeah.
I've deleted 7 acres of that
Well,
section.
what's going to happen to when it's finished, once it's gone down, it's gone back to Gail, it's going around the team again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
and we haven't
basically-
provided any comments until the rewrite.
So we
And that's the stage 2 as
I
well.
provided
isn't it?
comments.
it's going to be stage one still. I mean,
Stage
that,
one.
it was written,
No, in terms of stage 1 and stage 2 amendments.
Yeah.
that whole-
Nothing short.
but they haven't had a look at your.
No, but there's a whole stage 1, stage 2
When you
amendments.
put it in
No,
your
right.
Policy
budget,
review.
you can't.
This is
So
a
you
stage
It's
2
infringement if you remove
This is
Policy.
the stage 2 piece rather than the stage
fundamental
one.
rewrite of the policy.
Fundamental,
Call it
right.
what you want.
So yeah, we just need to update that, because it just says policy review at the moment.
Oh right, yeah, this is fun, it's just complete rewrite.
Fundamental, okay.
So you're rewriting his rewrite.
Yeah,
Lee's starting again.
we
Well,
basically,
I'm trying, yeah.
we're trying not to, but at the end of the, yeah, well, I'm not, let's,
So we're going to
Okay,
wait for
that's
your
fine.
rewrite.
yeah.
It makes sense.
Alright, so that's fine. Now, so in terms of that then, Lee, what are you working to in the middle of April to have that done? And then, because you talked about doing your
Well, Gail knows
trialling.
writing that policy. I think we discussed this last time. It's hard to put a timeline on it if
It
we
is.
keep on getting not fit for purpose policies. I mean,
Right.
I'm putting my cards on the
So has
table
he
there.
suggested
We're
sitting
giving good
down,
feedback,
talking
we're not
it through
getting
all
good
that?
product.
Fine. I've got a meeting with him tomorrow, so I'm going to be trying to pin him down.
So-
But he won't
There's
say
no
that.
way that will be the middle of April.
No.
Sorry, I said that quite loud.
Why?
You said it out loud, didn't you?
Well,
Well,
because-
because we're sort of saying that the
That's
trial...
only 2 weeks away.
but you've nearly done that, haven't you?
Yeah, that'll be done
But
tomorrow.
you know what? It's torture. The process of comments.
Well, I don't know, it's a track change accept, I think.
Will it work if we all sat in a room and thrashed it out rather
No,
than back
because
Yeah,
to
so my plan is to finalise my full-on review tonight and send him that and say we need to have a meeting, probably set aside 4 hours to go over this.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating because I expect there'll be lots of conversations around the edits because everything about it is quite contentious.
Okay.
So
So you send that at the same time you send it to Gail.
Yeah.
I was only contentious around the charitable.
yeah, I'll
Just
copy
to
everyone.
raise them
Yeah,
early.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, because on here we've got that the trial would then start on the beginning,
That's what it feels
beginning of
like.
April. Yeah, rather than pilot. everyone wants to do the pilot. So,
Well, no, the trial can, because the approval process has been approved, hasn't it?
Yeah, so do you remember we discussed we need to trial the principal policy changes and the most significant ones are around approvals. So I think irrespective of the fine wording on that,
Right,
I think we're in a place where actually we can at least try the changes in approvals.
okay,
Um,
so you'd still be happy.
So having
with
this
that?
finalised Genie policy isn't a
Is
dependency.
that pilot then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that being piloted?
Mexico. And marketing, if I can sort out the screening.
Okay.
And I'd love to know what's happening with my Elaine piece, but that's a separate conversation.
Your what?
That's with the Elaine piece.
Well, I tried to ring Elaine earlier, and that's another thing. There's a number of systems out there already that Gaon wanted to either take ownership to put into a corner they didn't want it, cause enough waves to then cause everyone to basically shut up shop and not bother communication. And now we're at the thing that Elaine and Jeff got's like, well, what's happening with my piece? Now, we don't have an A, B and C Europe. I'm a bit loath to take it personally, because if I take that, I'm going to have to take RBWM. I'm wondering whether I can just stop Elaine's bit and she can take on the RBWM, but like I spoke to you the other day, I don't want to start shutting systems down, migrating systems like that.
No.
If actually we just let Elaine's piece continue to go, wind the neck in on Gaon and just say let it sit as it is, because what I'm trying to do with GETS in America, because there's two systems out there, one's got a 100 limit, the other's got a 500 limit. The 500 limit is as many times as you want out there, the 100 limit is just one off.
Broker-dealer driven one, yeah.
And it's a FINRA one. Now, I've gone back quite flippantly today and said, why is there two policies and why is there two limits? Can't I just bring the limit down for consistency at the moment? I don't want to change anything apart from this limit. Problem is that will need a communication out once you do that. Lillian said, take the limit down. So I've asked Zane and a guy out there called Richard Lang, who is Zane's boss, to say, can I bring that limit down? Just for a bit of support now. So because it is quite messy out there, and too many people are sort of sticking their fingers in too many
And
pies.
people are rewriting policy, even though they've
Well,
been told, please don't rewrite policy,
We've
they
got
just keep doing it.
We've got
Yeah.
Deborah, somebody out in New York, has literally sat in front of us, well, fired us today, a new policy for FINRA licensed people. Now, I think the problem is this is now coming out the back end of the year-old odd audit. So so they're trying to catch the audit point so it doesn't get aged. I was sort of saying, look, just
Right. Well, some of that feeds into what we're going to talk about later in terms of comms framework and comms plan, because what we need to be doing is now that the ABC programme is established and running, we need to be communicating
Which
that
is-
to our various stakeholder groups. Some
Yeah.
will just be teams, some will be the wider population. I need to start communicating that into the FCC population, so all the regional heads and everything know that this is now starting to happen and stop. So I've sort of outlined a very high level draft because it was just quick and dirty last night, but there is a comms framework that global standards.
so what are we going
is
to do
now
with this
starting to
policy
work
that the US want to launch? Because there's two policies out there at the moment.
through. Right.
So this one's been rewritten
Yeah.
badly. But what are we going to do? Are we going to say to them? I mean, Gaon's just put his 10 pennies worth in and sent it back. to
Well,
them.
I think that's for us to resolve outside this
I
problem.
don't know,
was
I
going to
think it's
say,
part-
yeah, I mean, I would say as we're moving through a programme of change and you're all rewriting policy, then we should try and stop people rewriting policy outside of your group, because otherwise things
We
get
did
very
try to do that,
complicated.
we did try to do
And
that.
some of that we need to back up with comms, but I would agree with Lee that it's probably to come from Lillian and her leadership team, all of you, in terms of agreeing how you need to do that in the short term, and then we need to back it up with a comms framework that we need to build.
Just one comment on that, you've been in the bank a long, long time, is the people who are doing this are separate to us, so they just wave two fingers and go.
Well, no, they won't, because it's a different culture.
They
now, 'cause
can't anymore.
They can't.
Anymore. So, and to be fair, so it's also happening on the wider FCC piece, where there are audit points, there are all
Yeah.
sorts of findings and incidents and this, that and the other, and BAU teams are trying to fix things, but where possible we're trying to establish what's going on and then say to them, well actually, and what's happened, particularly in the UK, they have a massive spreadsheet of all these audit findings and things, and what they do is they send it to us periodically and say, for your programme, which ones are you fixing for us, what's happening in this space, and then just looking at the gaps. So that's the sort of communication piece we need to get working is,
Totally.
don't just go off and do your own thing wherever you are, filter it through to us, we then look at what we're doing to fix things, and if we're not fixing it, then yeah, maybe you do need to go and do something, but that's the comms piece that we need to get working that we've not got. So what I was proposing, we're jumping over the agenda a little bit here, but is that I get us all in a room to focus on comms specifically one day, because we're never going to cover it in this meeting properly, but it's working out who our stakeholder groups are, who we think we need to be talking to, looking at the best way of talking to them, whether it's regular update sessions, newsletters or whatever, how then we also feed that into the FCC programme so that the wider population, like the Bobs and all the other people, get informed as well. And then that should stop, so it'll never stop all the noise,
No, no,
because
no.
you know, we know how complex
We really
this
need to get
bank
that,
is.
because
We do.
once we put it up and running, it
hopefully.
It's
Well, it'll
easy.
make everybody's life so
Yeah.
much easier once it's up and running.
Well, including the regions that are out there
Yeah.
writing policies, saying, well, stop, let's just give it a 3
No,
months, 6 months break.
absolutely.
And I'm also getting asked coming in where I'm having to do my own little updates, independent of Lillian, to say, look, we're at this stage now, and I'll bear, if you want a 30 minutes, I'll have a chat with you. So that's the G&E policy side of life.
Okay.
I met with a guy called Nick Wise, who I introduced to Mike Bush, who basically they're building this PA dealer system. And the guy that's architect on that PA dealer system had already built a G&E system in Standard Bank, and he said that might work. So Mike is doing a gap analysis on that, and so they're going to have a look at that side of
Okay,
life.
and what we've talked about today, based on our conversation the other day, is very much the way that we should play this with IT is, and I think we'll come in at it at a phased basis really. So I can see what Gail's saying, but I think that is a later phase. What we need to do is get something in to fill the gap now, and then phase 2 will be about migrating the other systems potentially in. But as I said to you, having done migration programs, the last one I did was 5 years it took to get it all done properly because it was just a massive migration piece. So we need to fill a gap.
Let's not try and do it properly then.
Yeah.
It takes that long.
2020.
It's only going to last a couple of years and we'll all be
Yeah.
gone.
It's a lot of job
So I
for
think we
Yeah.
need to move on.
So if we plug the gap
2
with
years and
phase
3 months is
1,
what we're
yeah,
aiming for.
and Mike will be able
That's-
to, with his team, Mandy and whatever, be able to give us the options of the best way of plugging that gap. So some of this will come from software delivery in terms of what they think is the right thing to do, knowing the systems and how much effort has to go into all of that. So it's good that you've connected Mike with those people. Mandy needs to be aware of that, and Brian and I talked about it earlier today. And I think we'll be looking at 2 phases. Phase 1, plug the gap. Phase 2, migrate everyone onto the same system. And that's exactly the same approach as they're taking on things like CAMP, where everyone had all different versions of the system. They're standardising that onto one version this year, but they rolled out where they needed to last year. So roll out where there's a gap and then
The importance
standardise.
of getting that IT assessed is that it can go live in August, if it can be right, because that's when they're
Right.
going to bring out the PA dealing one, and then you can jump halfway into a project that's already on the go. So
Excellent. Oh, we'll be having 2 good solutions where
I'm
there's
talking
already
to Mandy
stuff
after this
working.
meeting, so
Fantastic,
I'll get it
yeah.
on
So
the agenda.
let's, yeah, so
Brilliant.
if the guys have already spoken to Mike,
Mike and Nick
you're-
Wise.
Nick Wise.
Nick
So
Wise.
Mike Bush is our guy, and then Nick Wise is this guy that's an architect of PA dealing system.
Okay, so
So
that's
that's
good.
G&E.
Right.
So can I just
Yeah.
ask, so the pilot in Mexico, are
Just
you
the,
having a pilot pack thing like we've got? Do you want us to share when we
Yeah,
finalise
please.
it? And is Jose leading that for you?
Who?
Jose?
He's all right, Hazel, I like
Yeah, yeah.
Does he know yet? I can't remember. I think he does.
And that's cross-line business.
That's cross lines of
That's
business
marketing
and will be
globally.
marketing Asia Pac or whatever. I mean,
Marketing
we-
in a particular location.
yeah, we've got to work with marketing because
How long are you doing your pilot for? 2 months, month?
It would have to be at least 2 months.
I would have thought 3 months.
well, I don't want to do 3 months Asia Pac on marketing, so we might just do marketing for. And I've got a marketing plan, so I could probably say how long we do it for, or we'll cover 3 events, 4 events, something like that. So it's not going to necessarily be it's going to be X, but I can give you the plans because they can tell me the events that are coming up.
Are you running the Mexico and the marketing pilots? They're separate, aren't they? And not running to the
Completely
exactly the
separate.
same schedule?
So the Mexico pilot will be the principal changes in the policy, and that's the
Yeah.
sort of thing which will impact you and I as, you know, employees.
Yeah.
Marketing is a function set up specifically for the provision of corporate hospitality, effectively.
We have
So-
corporate events in GBM, you can probably ask them.
Yeah, there's a huge amount we need for
So
marketing
yeah,
actually,
it sounds like we
but
need.
we've been so far
Yeah,
working with
time.
global CMB and global GBM marketing and sponsorship, and so there are process enhancements required.
Okay,
That is distinctly separate from what we're trying to do here
okay, all right.
with the Mexico
Right.
piece.
So they're not necessarily the same timeline?
No.
Well, not at all really, yeah, okay, all right.
So that's G&E, I think.
Okay, that's G&E, yeah.
Hiring interns.
Yeah, hiring interns. So, what's the date I gave you in the beginning?
So we're doing the policy review, should have been finished by now, with the policy update, stage 2, that's
I
fine.
think they went to,
Then we've
the
got-
policies go to Gaon.
I don't know.
I think the links went to Gaon.
Right, and then it's assess the practices and processes, which is now, until the middle of
I don't know where
April,
the
end of
hiring
April.
policies went. I'll have to check the hiring policies.
Define and improve the new question, which I know you've done.
That should
pretty
be done
much,
at the end of the
haven't
day, that,
you?
yeah.
So we've turned that green,
That turned
and then
into
it's the pilot.
dog's turn, didn't it, really?
So up until the end of this month, we're planning the pilot and then rolling out the pilot come April. Are we ready for that in Hong Kong and China?
Well, if I can get, yeah, because I'm not worried about the policy, because it's just a pilot. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to chase. I haven't seen anything from going on in relation to the policies for hiring internship. But anyway, well, hiring is different from internship.
And the internship's more
So-
problematic.
So basically, I found a talent pool team today in the Europe side of life. They're going to need. Oh, well, I'm going to talk to them because I don't know what they do. So, and then I need to find out what policy they are, because that's the internship. Then also falls under line with work experience, which is 82 weeks. So, I don't know whether you want to split that or whether we want to.
So,
They're two distinct risks and problems we're trying to solve there. So the hiring is addressing specifically the hiring of public officials in order for us to win mandates with
Yeah.
government entities.
yeah,
The whole internships piece is actually, seems like
It
there's
is
very,
bribery and corruption.
there's very little process around it, so there's a whole bribery and corruption piece. So with hiring, we actually have a whole vetting process, onboarding and all that sort of stuff. And so we just need to plug in one
the additional
specific
question.
one.
Yeah.
And is
exactly.
that the
But-
piece that we're going to pilot in
Yes,
Hong Kong?
exactly.
Just that piece?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Well, don't make it sound too small.
No, just between these four walls.
And
Everywhere else, it's a massive
yeah,
piece of work.
and the
That's not easy. You think you just
No,
put it in bed?
no.
You can't ask it in Brazil.
No.
No, so it's
And
not
when we
easy.
started, I said to
It's too
Lillian, you
personal.
can't do this, and she said, no, you can. Well, you can't actually.
Okay.
You might be if you go.
Fine, and
And
then we've got this internship
internships, and
piece.
actually,
That's the
I
worst
think it's
bit.
become apparent over the last 2 days. It's come out
Was that
come out
not
of the
sorted yet?
woodwork that there's very little
Process.
process and controls around that, and that is from a holistic bribery and corruption perspective, not just
Okay.
public officials.
So do we think
Quid pro
that's
quo,
building a
so on.
process and putting a policy in place?
Potentially, but I could probably tell you in about 48 hours, because I'm
Okay,
going to see
right.
someone fast.
So what we'll do, we'll put something fairly woolly in there for now to cover that piece off, to show that there is additional piece of work, because otherwise this looks quite straightforward
It
and
does,
won't give the true reflection of what the work stream's trying to cover. So, all right, we'll put something in there for now, and then we'll just update that. That will be a nice peachy colour to say that it's all guesswork right now.
Good.
So currently we've got 3 pilots commencing in April on different strands.
So, and that's my point. So what we've tried to do on this this plan now is every time we've got a pilot, we're saying where it is, because we're almost going to do a pilot tracker. Lauren and I were talking about this the other day, to pull out where we're piloting, because that's whole part of the comms piece as well, because part of the comms framework will be a comms plan that says what stakeholder comms we're doing,
Yeah.
but also where else we're reaching out to people, and it will show if we're running multiple pilots, making sure that we're not trying to do
Yeah.
the same place at the same time.
And in terms of
or-
demonstrating the progress that we've made, that's quite a big step.
It is.
The
It
next
is.
phase.
Yeah, so there's 2 sides to it really. One is making sure that we're coordinating those pilots, so we're not all going for the same areas, or and not helping each other. But then also, in terms by the end of April, we'll have lots to update in terms of progress made. So it's good. Yeah, well, the pilots will happen whether we get the right job.
I think I had investigations and escalations, and Lee put together a wonderful little flow chart that Lillian didn't like because it wasn't part of what we were talking about at the time. So, but I'm a bit stumped on what else I'm meant to do with it really, because the IRIS has already been, your part, you told IRIS you want an A, B and C box, IRIS being a database that contains portable, recordable events. So we've asked for a little box that says A, B and C. We've implemented that we get a weekly report of CMB, FCC events and issues created. You get the same.
I get Iris alerts all the time.
They actually produce a weekly
You
report
can get it sent to the
rather
summary
than.
spreadsheet if you want to do a controller,
Um,
rather than have to look at them all.
yeah, well, unfortunately, because I'm part of the senior management team of FCC, I see everything.
You know, I get it all as well, but
We get it all as well.
I lose track of my inbox, so I
It's-
get a summary sent.
Yeah, but I have to track everything for everybody because I'm the only one who actually bothers to read them.
That's fine, you read them all anyway.
So is this ABC box in IRIS now?
Yeah, well no,
You
not
get-
really, it's not in yet.
All right,
It's
so
not
you
in.
get a weekly report.
But they do it manually. They do
Oh, so
manually
they fit, I
tag
was going to say, you
things.
don't get a report of everything.
But
you get
obviously
a
that doesn't mean
sense
it's
of everything.
accurate,
Yeah.
No.
but things do say.
Things are in, but it's just there's no easy highlighting.
Yeah.
So there are those. I would say those are 2 quick wins. One of which is a win that we've done. One of which is to be delivered when they update the IRIS system.
Yeah, so that's one. And then there's, I know this sounds odd, but then there's reputational risk involvement, and the problem is they don't have, so rep risk and client on board, client management, or it's called, they do not have a full secretariat out there. So I can escalate as best I can, but luckily I sit next to my rep risk guy, so he,
I think we don't quite know what the programme is supposed to consist
Yeah.
of, so it's a
No.
bit difficult to plot it out.
and because Lillian hasn't brought in her investigation,
That's right,
and an escalation person, with the best will of the world, I don't want it all coming my way anyway. So I could bring up this wonderful process, and then it all comes to my desk, and that's like
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So
So,
I wonder whether we take it out until we can plan it.
well, I wonder if they just
Yeah.
put a timeline in, subject to the joiner and then we can at least give a plan of what we've done, where we are, and what we've sort of implemented.
But holistically, we don't know what this programme is supposed to do.
No. No,
Right.
shoot.
At-
But you've got the
at
gap.
the bottom
Good.
So
line.
I think we need to, we'll leave it in there because otherwise we'll get the question like you did last time of why I haven't put it in there.
So
But I think we need to put something around scope to be confirmed or something, or
I could scope it if you want me to, but
what,
the-
scope,
the-
the actual work stream.
Can we link
Yeah,
it
but
to
you don't-
the recruitment of the new person?
yeah. Can we mention what we've already done,
Yeah.
which is the IRIS, which is
So
obviously.
if we say weekly report received or whatever, and that can be a milestone that we're now getting.
And
a
we've
weekly
got
report.
access to audit, and we're engaged with Assurance. So if any issues come out of anything they do, which they're not doing any A, B and C this year anyway, so that's good. We've got meetings with compliance testing, so anything that they come to light, they know they'll come to us. The only thing is none of this is written down. So
Okay.
we're
Right.
engaged with, and the
They'd have to
AML
write
note,
it into their policies and procedures, not we'd have to write policy and procedure.
yeah, but we haven't told them anything.
I've got to email you tonight anyway with any comments on the AP, so shall I just jot down, like in a couple of lines, you know, what the quick wins are that we've already done?
That would be good, and
You've
then
got
what we'll do is
GII
we
and
reflect
others,
those as
haven't
being done on here, and we'll just put something woolly around
Christine and Chloe, I think fine.
Are they? I'm not on there.
data gathering and policy update or something. Yeah, okay, so that will be
I'll
useful.
try and put it
We'll
in
reflect those are the
sentences.
bits that have
Yeah.
been done, and then we'll,
I
yeah.
could
So
put
it'll be
something
the ABC
loose in.
box.
Let's put
weekly
something
box,
loose on this high level
GIG,
plan.
and then there's an accounts payable piece which I haven't progressed.
Okay,
Okay,
so
no.
that's escalation, investigation, hiring. Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Is that it?
I think we're done.
Why
I
am I
think
so tired then?
What's wrong?
Why am I so tired then?
You've done too much talking.
There's there's quite a lot going on there, but it's just trying to make it look like it's all under control and we know all the steps, because then...
Because it doesn't sound like it.
No, exactly. But it's trying to do that in 2 lines here so that we stop a load of questions.
Yeah.
Because I just know that
It's
if
about
we go out
closing
with
it all
anything-
off,
Yeah,
boxing
yeah.
it off.
It is about boxing it off in a way that people, it looks like everything's under control, we know exactly what we're doing when, and go away and leave us alone to get on with it. That's what we want to do.
That's the
Okay.
message, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying. It's not always working, but it
Now Lillian's going
Right.
to hit you with the IT thing, like I said on the phone the other day.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and I've already spoken to Heather about it, because there is no way on earth, having managed a lot of programmes in this bank, that you go for defining a software delivery timeline before you've done your requirements, before you know what your clear... You know, if IT come back to us and say, right, I can give you all this lovely stuff and it's going to take me 18 months, or they come back and say, right, I can give you this and it's going to take me 3 months, you as the business need to make that decision. So until they've done that and they've scoped it all out and they know what they're doing, we can't make a decision as to how long things are going to take. We're having all the right conversations, and I'm very confident that we're in the right place. You're engaged with the on-the-ground IT
I've got all the right
person.
people, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not even that we're just high level talking to Mike. Mike has now assigned someone to this who is getting into the detail. We're doing all the right things, but there's no way on earth that I'm ever going to put a timeline around that, because we need to wait for software delivery.
Because Brian hasn't spoken to the woman yet.
Can I just ask one more thing, so on separately, is EWRA on there? And if not, should we put it on?
MI's on there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because Lillian always talks,
So-
I mean, that is a...
Yeah, so we've got EWRA and we've got MI both on there as well. Now the MI bit, we've got quite a good story on there, and Carl caught up with me this week, Lee, to say 5 of the top 12 are available, which is a good news story, and that he's working on his plan to show when he can get the rest of them available to us. Is that what he said to you as well?
Yeah, there's actually now 18 which are available potentially today.
Yeah, but
don't-
5 of the top 12, he said he
Yeah,
asked you for your top 12 and...
When he says available, what he means is there's data. Yeah, what he doesn't mention there is
How
we
you
actually
get it
need
out.
to look at that data in detail and assess its quality.
Yes, absolutely, no, he did mention that.
So I don't want to be in a position where we say, actually, we've got 5 metrics which we can send out to the world and say, this is the risk that we're facing. Because
Okay,
the reason why we stopped the previous metrics was because those same 5 were assessed to be of poor quality. So there's no point in just
fine.
start sending
So
them
do
out.
we need to include that assessment piece in our plan then? 'Cause I don't
It's
think we've
already,
got that.
it's already
Is
part
it in
of,
there?
yeah, exactly, it's already part of their plans. But there is one point which I'm quite anxious now on the metrics, now that we've started having much wider discussions and trying to put in place remediating things, and that's communications. I know there have been a couple of emails about it.
I've had a couple now, so have they switched
yes.
them off, haven't they switched them off? As far as I know, we've switched them off.
Yeah, so the whole
I keep
report,
sending it to Carl.
yeah, exactly, so the whole reporting to ORIC piece is quite critical to this. So you've sent an email to
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan, he hasn't responded, right?
He's away, I can't get hold of
He's
him.
on tour.
He's-
He's on tour.
No,
It
he
was
will be-
the tennis.
Absolutely.
You
Is
don't
it
get
He's
any
not
other
dead.
time,
He's
no,
not
really.
dead.
I was so terrified.
No, he's not dead. But it's a different Bob
Thought he'd
Dylan.
long gone.
No, different, yeah, different Bob Dylan. But I will try and I have been back to back all day, so I will
But
try
that's fine,
to
but
get in today.
If anyone in the regions from Risk is saying, oh, we're supposed to be getting these, why aren't we? We can always point to say we've notified. So
Yeah,
Bob
I
Dylan
could get
is the
back
key.
and-
So-
He's the
Yeah,
man.
he's the key. I'll copy
Okay.
him in when I
Is
go
Is
back,
this,
yeah.
is this something that they've had previously that we've stopped
Yes,
or something
yes.
that's
We
like,
used to
so it's
send
not-
quantitative metrics to ORIC, which were crap, and we took forever to get together and told us nothing, so we switched them off,
Right.
which was really easy. But getting the reverberations out there in the regions to stop is proving problematic.
What, stop generating the MI?
To stop some
stop
of the
what?
ORICs asking for it in the regions, and also
Okay.
to stop the people who prepare it just going, oh, it's getting to the end of the quarter, crank it out and get going.
So
So
the
Which is-
FC, yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, so for example, we all know that the ABC team don't have a requirement for the MI anymore, so we just said we don't want it. But then the ORICs who gather it as well.
they should have been switched
Katrina
off.
told
They should have
them,
been switched off.
we don't think you no longer need it, and so they said they don't.
Alright.
But the people actually that go out on a quarterly basis
Do it.
didn't get that
Do it.
message.
Okay.
Some
So that's
places
what
like
Carl-
Bangalore.
Carl, so I keep getting hassled, and I've now pointed them all to Carl, and Carl is holding a call tomorrow with all of those people, and I will hold as many calls as possible, I think, but
Okay,
is
and
the
that's
answer
the
to direct them to
sort
Carl?
of thing that
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
the comms framework will help that in terms of going out to the key
Yeah.
people and then checking back in with them to make sure that they've done their
Yeah.
cascade.
On the comms piece as well, on metrics, we've all been briefing our individual FCC heads, but at one point Lillian was saying that she wanted to sort of send out some kind of comms piece to the FCC heads, because
Yeah.
I did think, well, it's all very well that this is what we think, but shouldn't they be given the opportunity to formally say, yes, I endorse these as metrics?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Um,
And I think we can
We
pick
haven't
that
done
as
that
part of the, yeah, we can pick that up as part of the comms piece.
but so we could just feed it into the,
Yeah, and I've already told Lillian that we're looking at a comms framework and trying to get this coordinated, consolidated and not hitting with people with 10 different emails from 10 different people.
because I would have thought logically with all of these programmes, there ought to be a formal step of writing out from the functional team to the line of business and back again,
Yeah.
even though it will be a bit of an active fiction because we've already been briefing our heads.
No,
Shouldn't that happen?
But
Because it
yeah,
doesn't
and that's
then have
exactly what's
sanctions.
happening on the wider programme
Yeah.
in terms of there will be updates going out in terms of what's happening and sort of and here's your opportunity to let us know
Yeah.
if there's an issue.
Yeah, because what will
it's
happen
a bit
is people will forget that we've told them things, and there'll be all kinds of
Why didn't I know
nonsense too
about
far,
this?
Yeah,
where in fact
But
if you
that's
just
why
build it
if
in.
we get a good comms framework going,
Yeah.
what we do is build on the knowledge. So you'll announce something one month, and next month you'll be announcing something else, but you'll be reminding that
Yeah.
you're not supposed to be doing your ORIC reporting anymore, or whatever, So it's this constant build-up of good communications around what people should be expecting, should be doing, and how we're trying to help them make
And
these
will we
changes.
get that in place in the next couple of weeks then, before Easter?
Well, I'm sort of hoping by the end of April, based on the fact that we've got Easter but let's, what we'll do,
We've
I'll
got kind
put
of
a workshop in
couple of
place
pilots
next
in all
week.
machine.
We have, but I think we are looking at the pilots individually, so we're doing all this work with Simon, we're working out what worked and what didn't work in terms of the comms piece, and we can feed that into the framework piece. So I think, yeah, we're going to have to sort of just treat the pilots individually a little bit at the moment, but then get the comms framework to back it up.
So I just thought actually this hiring intern thing, Sanctions are doing something similar in relation to screening. So there might have to be an interim manual solution for a bulk screening solution on a monthly basis, I think. But Sanctions are running a gap analysis,
They are.
which probably won't take long considering we don't do any sanctions checking. And they are then, so that's Lee Hale's lot, I can't remember the name of the woman, but there was
No, it's in my team, so
Okay, great.
yeah, so Veronica's
So
running that.
so the thing being is what might do is rather than implement an IT screening solution with a down, whatever we're going to go screen, well check screen of them, is do a monthly screen, bulk screening, is what I was thinking, sorry Brian. Because then once the sanctions piece goes in, it uses well check anyway, so
Right, okay, alright, so we probably need to connect with the sanctions.
yeah,
PM,
just to see where they are
just
with it
to-
and see what they're going to do, because
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll implement something and then you could just bulk what we're doing on, but that might take 3 or 4 months, 5 months down the line. I'm sure
Yeah.
it won't, from a
Yeah.
sanctions perspective, take that long, to be honest.
No, okay.
So taking it back to the metrics piece, Katrina, you know, you said, okay, that's time we go out qualitative updates. Who's responsible for giving those things?
You'll be called by your own regional or your own ORIC. I've done the GBM regional and I
Yeah.
will do the GBM global.
So,
But you will be called by your own ORIC,
have
we-
you
because you're a
been,
qualitative. update.
Which is, yeah, I've got his name.
So you've been in contact before? Okay, fine.
And really, I can show you what we did. We did 4 paragraphs. They don't want much. We did. Do you have any breaches? What are your key highlights? What are you doing on your projects? And I put timelines of 2015 to 2019 on the horizons because I didn't know. And then next month I've got to go back with the deadlines. But they let me put that in this month because I didn't know.
Should we be whatever should we work out how to
Yeah, would you mind forwarding what you did submit to them? And then we'll copy your format so we're all consistent.
Secret.
Okay.
Can we put some?
Well, we'll just say
Some
GBM, dependency on GBM for everyone.
I'll talk to you guys.
Fine, okay. So let's talk about your part then.
Well, we've got what 7 minutes
Yeah.
left. So the job is only Jan, isn't it? Really. Well, it's interesting, and I'm now going to sit here and assume that you've all got the technical expertise, because Brian has to understand Sharia compliant funds and bankruptcy remote special purpose vehicles set up as charitable trusts.
Okay.
Right.
Speak English now, please.
Yes. Okay. I've solicited all my stakeholders. Replies are coming in. I was saying to Brian, I think I've got 80% confidence that I'm seeing what I expected to see. Most places say, no, we don't do it. Corporate sustainability do it, which is fine. There is no policy, there's only guidance. Some of the business lines I have seen, I spotted one in a piece of entertainment where we're going to this charity dinner and we've made a donation. So it does go on in the business lines. But I knew that anywhere in global banking and markets because we're the investment banking piece, so you'd expect us to. The bit that did throw me a little bit off course, but I was saying to Brian, if I'd had my banker's head on it, would have occurred to me naturally, but didn't, is we do a lot of Sharia compliant funds in MENA, and they go through a dividend purification process, and anything over and above the dividend purification is available for charitable donation at the discretion of the Islamic clerics and advisors on the construction fund. So I don't think that's been considered from an anti-bribery and corruption perspective.
Do we do that for RBWM?
Yeah, they're RBWM customers.
Right. Sorry.
You're familiar with Sharia compliant funding?
I don't know.
Zakat, that's what it's called, right? So you give at least 8% of your income to charity, and I know some banks set that up.
Yeah. And then we've got bankruptcy remote special purpose vehicles for securitisations, which are set up as charitable trusts. We are doing an exercise in EMEA which will go global. We've got hundreds and hundreds of these vehicles. Actually, it's really didn't with you, because you want it for associated persons. I did send it to you because they will be associated persons.
From Brazil.
So you wanted it, so I'm thinking across. When we wind those up, I don't think anybody ever thought when they set them up in the heady days, the investment banking boom, we would ever have to wind them down again. So we've got to think about those. So I've given Brian some thoughts, and I've got to do some work for him today. Okay. Maybe tomorrow morning if I can't get it done today.
So obviously the first phase of your part of the programme, your work stream, was doing your data gathering and assessing results, and now we need to build out the plan for what happens next.
Yes, and we started to do that. Yes.
You'll see that tomorrow morning.
Will that be pilot and policy change?
There is no policy to change.
Okay, so
Create policy.
Pilot that.
No.
Global.
Process. Then pilot the process.
Right.
Test the process.
Test the
Develop
process.
Create the policy, create the process.
Yes, we're going to do a
Create
decision
policy,
tree.
create process,
Decision
and
tree.
then pilot the process.
Yes.
Okay.
And who will the main business areas be that will be impacted by the new policy?
I think probably global banking and markets. I don't know what your business lines do. Is it in the branches? Do they make donations to charities? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't know if the retail bank people have come back to me yet. I haven't looked because I was travelling last week as well. So I'll have to look and see if they've responded. But every business line risk administration officer said, what do you do in your business line?
Okay.
Oh, I'm running out of battery.
Okay. All right, so thank you. So we've got 3 minutes left. So as a quick summary then in terms of what we need to do this week. Brian's reaching out to all of you, but we will update this high-level plan and we will build on the detailed plan. I will get those over to Lillian tomorrow. Ideally, I should send them out to all of you first to make sure that you're comfortable with them. But
we trust you, Karen, not to lend us in it.
Well, yeah, to be fair, I'll learn myself. If she doesn't like it, she'll tell me, and I'll do it.
And we'll just be
misunderstanding and
not
we'll get it
available
sorted,
for
so that's
comment.
fine.
We'll go
No,
not
we'll
onto
be
the phone.
We'll be fine. So I'll send that over to Lillian tomorrow with the usual caveats. I'll copy you all in on it so that you see what I've said and what we've sent her. That's good. I will set up a comms workstream probably for next comms workshop probably for next week so that we can start to talk about how we build our comms framework and what we need to start putting into it and who we need to start talking to. I had attached with the minutes, with the agenda items, the terms of reference for the working group. Now, I don't expect we need to talk about that. If you all just want to cast your eyes over it, and if there's anything that we've fundamentally missed from what we're trying to achieve here, then let me know and I'll update it. Otherwise, I'll take that as signed off and we'll stick that on our SharePoint. Comms was the other piece that we were talking about. Progress report is due from you all on Friday, so all I'd like is just a very high level.
Isn't that what this is?
It is, but then by Friday things change in our ever-changing world.
Not me. Nothing
So,
changes now.
if
Nothing
nothing's
changes
changed,
now until
that's
next
fine.
Monday.
And I think because I've got to change the format of the progress report to make it in line with global standards, we won't go for a template this week. It's just if anything's changed between now and Friday, can you give me some bullet points on an email? And then I will write the standard progress report on Monday based on what you've all told me. over
Does
the
that
course of
close
this
the
week.
business Friday, lunchtime Friday?
Close of business Friday, I'm not here. I'm in Berlin. I'll be back on Monday.
You're on holiday?
I'm on holiday.
Oh, lovely.
So just on the plan, I will send you any comments that I've got tonight then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you've got any comments based on the discussions here or other thoughts that you have overnight or whatever, if you can pop them through to Brian and Lauren, we'll get this updated and I'll get this sent out before I leave tomorrow.
And I've got to do my spreadsheet that you did for me, update it, and write what I've done for you
Yeah, just the matrix.
between now and tomorrow morning at some point.
Okay. Is there any other thing that I said I would cover in our meeting earlier that I haven't covered? I've ticked everything off, I think. Oh, yeah. So the only other thing we would say, most of you do double up, but say for example you don't double up, it's just it will be good to know who is your deputy. If now that we'll get into holiday season and people won't be around, but we need to keep this moving because
I
things
won't
are
have a
fast
deputy.
paced. You won't have it.
I won't have a
who will
deputy
do
unless
your
you want to
stuff
do it.
when you're not here.
Well,
No
ABC, well you'll probably do my gifts and entertainments, won't you, and that's it. You know.
Okay.
I normally
I
go
mean,
on
when
the,
all these projects are finished, I wonder what you're going to do all day.
Oh, I'm sure you'll still be busy. So that's fine. So obviously Graham and Lee.
well, I'm gonna probably have a heart attack or something. I think by the end of this.
We'll be visiting
Just-
Graham in hospital.
Stick as his deputy, will do. Whatever you need to do, and just leave a note of what have you
And
changed.
frankly, I'll have my laptop with me.
Fine.
So
And then
it'll
is
be
anyone sort of close to what Gaon's doing and
We try to keep as far away from that as we possibly can.
right.
No, the problem is with it, he's now on an off-site training. He's running the policy bit, and now he's on off-site training. So he's obviously trying to flip the two, and he
Yeah.
does sit next door, but one to Lillian.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate some of the pressures he's probably under. But it's about concentrating him into what he's meant to be doing. And
Yeah, I've got a meeting with him tomorrow.
policy
Well, I
writing's a
think
lot
what
harder
we
than
need
you
to do
think.
is we ought to say when we want the, because I think he's said to me he started writing AP policy, but I don't know how we can do that because I don't even know what's supposed to be in
It
it.
doesn't matter,
So-
he's going to write it for you.
But we want it written around the programme because otherwise
Yeah,
it'll be
no,
written
no.
in the programme will be wrong. So I think if we when we've got our plan planned out and if you're speaking to him tomorrow, we can be saying that the next phase is for you to dedicate policy writing time to will be much earlier for gifts and
Yeah.
entertainment, but much later for AP.
That's
So
a
then we
critical
can help
dependency,
plan.
isn't it?
What
Can't
about
write them
hiring
all
policies?
simultaneously.
Then we get him to put his time, to spend his time in the most effective way, because at the minute it's pointless in spending any time doing AP stuff, I think.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of time to spend on Genie soon when I send through those comments.
So that plan might help, say,
So in
This is
theory,
your year
he's
ahead.
not supposed to be writing any of these policies from scratch. He's supposed to be taking what you're all writing and
No, and what happens, he was taking, like, the G&E one was already in process, so what he's done is cut and paste bits out of it, sent it through to us, we've then reviewed it and gone,
Right.
actually, you want to do it this way.
I think with AP we should say to him, we want your policy, we want the policy to look like this. Please bear in mind.
Yeah, so what I shared with Gail after the first round was we wanted to look like this structure, rely on you to draft the appropriate wording, sympathetic to relevant
So you should all be
legislation,
filling your
and,
requirements and context
that's
through
what's-
to him rather than him
Yeah.
driving, writing a policy
Yeah,
and then
and
sending
logically
it round
it'll
to
be
you.
gifts and entertainment followed by your piece, followed by AP
And hiring and
in
Yeah.
2015.
internship all at the same time.
That's one of the questions I had, is where is this Gaon's remit end and where does yours start? And
Yeah,
who's
it's
driving
been-
who?
Yeah.
It sounds like he's trying to drive you, but you should
Well,
be
It should be the other
driving
way round. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now we can have that conversation with him tomorrow. That's
him. If we
fine.
can time down to what we've got to the plan those days, we just said them.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think so because his bit's rather woolly at the top there. At the moment, so. Okay.
And yet, the first time, you'd have thought you'd done all of it.
Yeah. He got that way, didn't he? Yes. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
And when it all
Thank you
goes
very
wrong,
much.
he will.
be my fault, you wait.
Sorry, I'm writing there, MSII.
When I don't turn up to the meeting, this is what happens when I'm
So there were some emails over
Apparently last year was
the
Friday.
So it's that we've had the calls with Zane and Jose now, just to make them comfortable about thinking they're being left out.
Is this what the
So Lee, I haven't had time to completely finish the process map because I was steering pack goes out today, so I've been pulled off on other things. But a question I did have, so first of all, they need to understand if there's a political official, public official, and then to email you, and then you do the world checks, and then they understand if it's.
We do the world check and review relevant legislation and then send them back.
And then they understand the cost, the value. Wouldn't it be streamlined if they knew
It
both
doesn't-
those?
It doesn't matter what the value is of a public official.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what the value is, they have to report it and it has to be approved.
Okay.
So that's why it sort of cuts out the whole value question.
Okay. So if it's a public official, it has to.
It has to be approved no matter what.
Okay. And then if it's not, the cost
The cost
will depend if it needs to be approved. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. No, it's fine. Thank you. Cheers. Well, when do you, I've got to do a bit more chasing, and I'll probably finish it off before I go today. I can send it back over tomorrow, or we'll catch up tomorrow at some
No,
point.
that's perfect.
Is that all right?
I'm not in during the afternoon tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll try and catch up before you go then.
Perfect.
All right.
Cheers.